To introduce today's speaker of the session. Today's speaker of the session, Dr. Rajshekhar Reddy Garu. Sir is presently working as Assistant Professor in Department of Pharmaceutical Chemistry, SPPS PTM. He previously worked as an Associate Professor, KL College of Pharmacy. Sir has pursued B.Pharm and M.Pharm from Kakatiya University and completed his PhD from JNTU, Hyderabad. Sir has received several awards and is also a recipient of this fellowship. To his credit, Sir has published more than 47 research papers and review articles in peer-reviewed and national and international journals. Sir has also participated in more than 30 international conferences, seminars, workshops, and he also presented 18 research papers in various conferences. Sir is also an editorial board member in scientific journals and is also a reviewer in some peer-reviewed journals. Sir guided 3 PG students, 10 undergraduate students, and is right now is a supervisor for 5 PhD research scholars. Sir is also active in various social activities and he's in charge of Youth Red Cross and is organizing various activities in various adopted villages of the college. Sir area of interest are small molecule synthesis, natural product research, molecular modeling, Alzheimer's disease therapeutics. Sir has also completed a funding project worth ₹2 lakhs on synthesis of Gensho Bios-derived amygdalin analogs for possible antiviral activities. With these few words, I welcome Dr. Rajshekhar Reddy, sir, to please give his valuable note on today's topic. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lakshmi, madam.
Thank you, sir.
And before starting this session, I just wanted to thank organizers, Dr. Vijay sir and Dr. Ravi sir. And I wanted to especially thank Principal Madam, Dr. Sunita Madam, for giving me this opportunity to address the gathering. And so as you already heard about myself, I'm basically from chemistry background, but I'll try to give justification for the current topic of today. Let me share my screen. Is it visible?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah, first of all, I just wanted to congratulate and also thank the IQSC of Siddhartha College of Pharmacy, Vijayawada. So because this is an innovative topic, actually, the pedagogy to develop quality initiatives and especially student-centric learning. And this is actually a need of the our topic. Basically, we are actually in the transformation stage from teacher-centric learning towards student-centric learning. So where most of the time we'll be teaching the students and they are just passive learners. So actually there is a lot of a gap is there, especially with respect to the learning of higher education institutions with respect to like our particularly the courses like pharmacy and some medicine. So where they are actually practically oriented courses. So today my current topic is actually the pedagogical concept of student-centered learning and obstacles for the implementation. So actually the presentation will have this contents of initially, I will be like showing you some ancient Indian education systems, followed by what is their method of learning and actually how it got transformed into today's education system, and what is students-centered learning. And there will be comparison between teacher-centered and student-centered education in combination with like we'll be discussing what are the advantages of teacher-centered and also drawbacks of student-centered, in line with student-centered education, their advantages and disadvantages. And later on, there will be 5 important domains of learner-centric teaching. So the student-centered education or maybe learning process will be using it as a vice versa, learner-centered or student-centered, both are same actually. So how can we implement this student-centric learning and especially higher education with respect to the pharma sector? And also what are the obstacles to the implementation of this particular SEL with respect to the faculty and with respect to the student perspectives, and what are the problems they're actually facing right now, and what are the probable solutions we can throw actually to solve those problems, and followed by conclusion, my view of conclusion for this particularly student-centric learning. So if you see, especially our ancient Indian education system. So being Indians, we already being taught about our ancient Indian education system. You might have heard about there are some gurukuls and also some Vedic pathshalas where they're actually majorly giving the education for the students with respect to the different historical aspects of India with respect to you know that we have various Vedas, and also there are some literatures are available. So based on that, actually in those days, in the ancient period, the people were given education with respect to how to live the life, how to lead the life with some good characteristics. So such kind of actually education system we have way back to our ancient people. And during this medieval transformation and also the modern education techniques, actually during that time, we even have some madrasas, like especially with respect to this Islamic education sector, where our Indian country was actually ruled by some Mughal kings. In that period, our education system actually taken a lot of transformations with respect to the curriculum development. So before that, there is no proper curriculum. It depends on the teacher. So what type of techniques he wanted to inculcate in the students, depending on that, their whatever gurukuls and the Vedic pathshalas, they were known for different types of education systems. But when it comes to this Akbar kind of ruling time, in that time, the madrasas came into the picture, and also not only madrasas, in some Hindu education system also, he incorporated some curriculum related transformations, very drastic transformations were taking place. So if you heard about, there are different universities, different Indian universities you might have heard about in our ancient education system. Naming few, you might have know about Nalanda University, Takshashila University, and we have other some other universities in even in North India also. For example, Vallabha is one famous university in North India, and Vikramshila. We have Nagarjuna Vidyapith in our own Andhra Pradesh. We have Mithila, Ujjaini, and Jagadala. So these are different universities, like naming few with respect to our historical developments. So these are all universities are actually places, well-known places worldwide, where people are coming from various other countries also. So at that time, that India was actually known for like advanced education with respect to the university like setup. So these are well-known universities, and because of some constraints and because of a lot of transformations, these actually gone right now. We can't see them. Only we can see some of the like monuments only right now. There is no proper even history also with respect to some of the universities. Okay, so if you ask me, like I have actually few things to like actually take from that particularly ancient education system, even with respect to that universities, whatever I have told now. Like when it comes to the key points from ancient Indian learning system. So basically at that time, teachers had complete autonomy. So where they are the like person. So with respect to the selection of the students, and also when it comes to the syllabus also. So where the faculty has complete autonomy to choose what kind of topic they wanted to teach to the students, and also the nature of the students, like from where, from which segment they can actually take the student enrollments. That also solely depends on the teacher, because it is you know, the places are actually very small, and also limited people will be there for teaching, and maybe one teacher along with some of the peer members along. There will be around 10 to 15 advanced learning students will be there, and they are actually assisting him in this particularly learning process. So when the teacher was satisfied with the performance of the students, then only the course is concluded with respect to the student. It is actually student perspective only. In those days itself, our Indian education system is student perspective, like student-centric. So depending on the nature of the student and depending on the level of the student, and the teacher is actually deciding what to taught to the student. And that too, sometimes there will be individual base, like person to person teaching. Sometimes actually also we might have seen in some of the films and some of the like literatures we might have seen. So where the teacher is actually taking one student to like tell him one particular story, like Jataka Kadas, something like that. And he is explaining like storytelling kind of thing. So where the students are actually easily grasping the things. And at that time, actually, there is no books. At that time, books are not available. So whatever the things were actually taught by the faculty or teachers, the students are actually, they are repeating it that for multiple times to memorize it. Okay. So, and not only that, there will be sometimes debates and discussions were actually made, and that is the basic primary method of teaching. So the teaching is not like one way, where the teacher is teaching and students are learning. It is not the way. So where the students also involved in the debate process and discussion process to learn new things. So teacher, sometimes they were assisted by the advanced level students. So these advanced level students, we can call them as peers. So where the seniors sometimes may be helping the juniors for like learning some new topics or maybe some complex topics. So these are the key points we can observe from our ancient education system. So during transformation, if you remember, for example, you see here the method of learning. Basically, it is according to the knowledge and level of the student skills. So the teachers are basically taking the storytelling as a method of teaching, and also sometimes they will be giving examples, and most of the time it is practical knowledge based understanding of the concepts. So it is not like reading books and understanding the concepts. It is always they will be doing some experimentation, or maybe they will be doing some small task, and from that they are learning something. So if you heard about this Jatak Kadas or maybe some Akbar Birbal stories, you might have heard about there will be a beautiful story. At the end of the story, there is one particular lesson will be there, then one particular statement to understand that. So they are making this into very easy manner to understand in a just common language also. So the students actually got the plenty of knowledge through seminars and debates. I already told you that there will be like sometimes summits will be actually organized by different kings in that arena. So where that people are actually sharing their knowledge. Nowadays also we'll be like seeing the seminars and debates, and the same kind of setup is also there in the ancient time. So that was organized by various kings and some Chhatrapatis. They're the actually places where they can showcase their knowledge, and also they can even learn from the other people and from different traditional systems. So if you see the transformation, so after the ruling of British people, so we have seen a lot of like changes with respect to this education system. I already told you that during this Mughal kings, the curriculum content development came into the picture. So before that, we have some small literatures maybe written on Talapatras, something like that. Then later onwards, the scripts were developed, and whatever that alphabets were developed. And Akbar actually he got one kind of system that he always advising the teachers in those days, saying that first make the students to learn alphabets, then followed by words and followed by sentence. This is the system what he actually implemented for the first time in the historical timelines. If you see from there onwards, if you see the British Empire ruling in that time, actually there is one person called Thomas Bobbington Macaulay. He first time introduced English language in India as a medium of instruction. So there were some actually misconceptions or maybe some truths also there. So this English medium was actually he made it mandatory to learn Christianity or something else, but that is not actually relevant with our topic. But if you see that medium of language, so because of that, now we got the chance of expressing ourselves in the world scenario, and also we got the opportunity to learn some of the scientific advancements which are happening across the world, because we are able to understand that particular foreign language. So this is what we can say that biggest milestone in our Indian education system. And that is one of the again problem actually. So where we directed ourselves towards to teacher-centric learning process. So until that time, we have actually student-centric process, but because of this English language, where it is a foreign language, and we started relying on the teacher more than believing ourselves. And because of that ruling, not only ruling, and because of the globalization, so we have actually witnessed the development of science and technology and also innovations. That happened because of the globalization and because of this English knowledge skills. So and can you please mute yourself? Yeah, thank you for that. So to cope up with this modern era of technology, and also to like get this industrial opportunities, so we actually got the skills, and the skills were taught by this like majority of the times by the teachers from various literatures. So from that time onwards, we became like bookworms, or maybe what I can say that we started learning from books, not from the real life or not from the experiences of the faculty or something like that. So even faculty is not having any experience also by reading the book, and he can explain that, okay, somebody might have actually performed this experiment, and from this experiment, we can learn these kind of things. So from that time onwards, this kind of passive learning got actually started. So from that time onwards, now if you see that from that Vedic time to even medieval times, and if you see the modern times, we have seen a lot of transformations. So where you can see that one-to-one teaching got started, and where the digital learning got started, where the people are actually learning with the help of this technology medium. It actually helped a lot for the students for learning it very easily. And if you see the today's scenario where the people are learning from the online, where like teacher presence is not required at all. So in this point of time, actually, there is a lot of scope for transforming our education system from teacher-centric to student-centric. Because at the end of the day, that learner actually going to the society and he is actually doing something to the society. So end of the day, he has to have some skills to showcase or maybe to survive in maybe the society, to get the job, or maybe to contribute positively to the society. At the end of the day, the learner should be in a stage where he has to learn the skills on his own. So where the transformation now, we need the transformation from teacher-centric, where the faculty is teaching and faculty is providing everything. It is just like a spoon feeding kind of thing. So there is actually a dire need for changing this teacher-centric to student-centric approach. But in that particular thing, we have a lot of hiccups and a lot of obstacles are there. So how to overcome all those things? So we'll discuss that further. So if you see today's learning system, so if you remember that previous one, you can see that it's completely, the environment is completely ambient and limited number of students are there. So due to this industrialization and due to the competition, nowadays we can see that our universities or whatever the colleges, they are actually populated with many students. And even the student faculty ratio actually gone wrong. And it is not possible to give one-to-one teaching. So definitely it could be like teacher-centric approach only, because where one student is teaching for hundreds of students, or one teacher is teaching like thousands of students at one point of time. So where there is no attention towards the learner's approach, whether they are learning or not, we don't know. So that kind of situation nowadays we are here. If you see this particular two classrooms where there is like usage of digital gadgets and also conventional teaching. So we don't know what exactly the student is actually getting the things from our lecture, or maybe whatever the talk we are giving. So if until or unless we are understanding the nature of the student and their state of mind and their background of whatever the like learning things they have, like the base of fundamental concepts, depending on that, their learning will be happening actually. So if we are experts and we are teaching some advanced techniques or maybe advanced tools, if the student is unable to learn, and that is end of the day again, so only like a few people are actually getting whatever the fruits from your teaching, or maybe whatever the lecture session you have, maybe that could be 50 minutes or 1 hour session. At the end of the day, like most of the time you will be like getting the satisfaction of around 20% or 30% of the people are listening to your class. And also the remaining people are maybe they lost somewhere after 10 minutes, after 20 minutes, they will be lost somewhere and they are roaming outside of the class, not physically, but mentally and psychologically, they are not present in the class. Like we'll be sometimes calling it as physically present and mentally absent. So that kind of situations were arised because of this problem only, because we are most of the time we'll be into teacher-centric learning process, where teacher is now taking a topic and he's teaching entirely 50 minutes or maybe like 1 hour time. So at that point of time, there is no concern about whether the student is following it or not. So maybe if you maybe yesterday also Dr. Jason Kesar actually taken a session with respect to this how to engage the students properly with the help of this active learning methodologies. If you remember that flipped classroom technology, and also like there are different ALMs, active learning methodologies. So by employing that, so we can make it a little bit student-centric, where we are involving the student towards learning, effective learning process. So we'll see what exactly happening in the classroom session, like classroom atmosphere. If you see that, so we are thinking like we are giving too much of information to the students, and it is definitely it's a rain of information. So we can see that in traditional classes, the students learn not to ask too many questions. Instead, they learn to listen and repeat the expected answers. If you're asking sometimes out of anxiety, maybe out of maybe something as a part of our class, we'll be asking some questions, some random questions to the students, whether they are following or not. So out of that 100 students or out of the 50 or 60 students, definitely 1 or 2 students will respond positively and they will give the answer. With that, we'll satisfy ourselves and we'll continue, because at the end of the day, we have to finish this particular portion. And at the end of the semester, end of the year, we have to complete whatever the content which was given in the syllabus. So that is our prime concern rather than whether the student is following or not. So in this perspective, so most of the time it will be happening. You can see with this figure, I'm teaching whether the student is listening or not, whether the student is getting or not. That is the biggest question mark right now. Maybe they have their own inhibitions for taking our content, maybe because of lacking of the fundamentals, maybe because of maybe whatever the different deviations they might have right now because of this technology gadgets. They have some other maybe avocations. Because of that, if you're teaching for 50 minutes or 60 minutes, we are not sure actually. So how much content was gone to the student brain, and maybe there is definitely probability of losing like some content. Maybe he's listening to 10 minutes, maybe he's getting only one part of the information. For example, if it is medicinal chemistry, he's knowing about the drug classification only. He don't know what exactly the site of mechanism or target of drug. So that kind of some crucial information might have lost during this lecture. And anyway, nowadays the student perspective is also changed, and they are relying on the content, not on the faculty. So they are like whatever the content was given by the student, like PPTs or maybe some notes, they're reading it and they're actually writing the same thing, because our evaluation system is like that. It is not a continuous evaluation. It is just like evaluation with respect to some maybe some intermediate test, like maybe we'll be having some test 1, test 2, or session 1, session 2. And at the end of the day, we'll be having like final exam. So whatever they are writing, whatever they are remembering, that only we are testing. We are not testing the conceptual knowledge. We are just testing their remembering capacity, whether they are able to remember the concept or not. But whether they understand the concept or not, that we are not evaluating actually. Okay, so in this instance, you might have known this particular learning pyramid. So for example, completely whatever the syllabus is given to you, if you are solely dependent on teaching by just lecture method, only the 5% of the content will be given to the students, because it is just a kind of passive teaching method where the student is simply listening to you and he's just watching the PPT, whatever you are showing, that whatever audio visual things is also actually having limited retention rates with respect to the remembering capacity, maybe understanding capacity of the students. If you're simply reading something from the book or maybe from the PowerPoint, it is just giving a passive teaching methodology where the student will lose it definitely after a certain extent of time. And similarly, if you're giving some audio visuals, some beautiful pictures, or you're demonstrating some instrument, or maybe you're demonstrating some method, there are chances of again the retention maybe around 30%. But when it comes to this advanced methods, actually, which are actually a little bit of student-centric, where group discussion, where you are involving the students and you are making that making the students into different groups, and you are giving a topic for discussion. One is actually giving positive comments about the topic, and the one is giving negative comments about the topic, or maybe different approaches of their understanding about the topic. So that actually gives some scope of retaining the concept, because they know what exactly we're talking, because they have to talk something about the topic means they will work on the topic, not simply coming and sitting and taking something and leaving the other things behind. Not like that. The student will come and they will learn few things, and that few things will definitely will retain in their brain for certain extent of time. And similarly, if you make them to practice, you give them some exercises after this kind of group discussions, and you give them some exercises in such a way that way they have to use their skills, whatever the things they have heard, whatever the things they have actually saw and learned. If you ask them to practice in a different, like by giving some problems or maybe by giving some exercises, so in that instance where at least 75% of chances are there to retain that particular concept, maybe theorem, it could be some classification, or it could be some mechanism of action, something like that. And similarly, if you allow the students to teach themselves, for example, maybe Dr. GSN Kodeshwar sir might have shown you something which he implemented in flipped classroom technology. So where you might have seen that he has given role to one particular student, where he actually prepared for one particular topic for 15 to 20 minutes. It could be a small topic, but if one of the student is presenting something in the class, and definitely that actually makes that people to get some attention. If he's teaching well, and depending on the technology or depending on the medium he might have using, maybe some of the students are actually getting motivated towards learning, where in the normal instances where the teacher is teaching and the student is roaming somewhere. Okay, but if one of his friend is teaching, then definitely there is a chances of paying some attention, because one of his friend is only teaching, so he is actually having some bond, and also there is more scope. There is no inhibition at all. Sometimes there may be like being depending on the seniority of the faculty, maybe there are some students which are actually having inhibitions of asking questions, inhibitions of interacting with the faculty. But when it is like a student, one among them, like one of the student is now teaching a particular topic, so there won't be any inhibitions, because that students may have interacted very well with that particular student corresponding to that particular topic. So definitely with respect to that particular topic, the learning, whatever aim or goal, definitely will be in higher achiever level. Okay, so when it comes to only teacher is teaching and students are listening, and if you're asking some questions, there won't be much feedback also. Okay, this is actually the problem with respect to our traditional system of teaching. So in the traditional system of teaching, so most of the time we will be giving the lecture and student is just listening and he's a just passive learner. And if you give some reading technique, reading task, or maybe if you're presenting with some demonstration and audio visual technique also, there is a lot of like actually scope for getting the content lost. Maybe you cannot get the attention of the student much. When it comes to this participatory teaching method, so where you are involving the student in the process of learning, so where this particular topic, whatever topic you wanted to teach, it is not from your own, like it is actually even belongs to the student. Yes, I'm audible?
They're audible, sir.
Like voice is okay or it is low?
It is okay, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you. So with this, like you can see that there is a lot of difference with respect to our traditional teaching and this participatory teaching. Nothing but we can simply call it as participatory, means we are expecting the participation of the student in the active discussion of the content which we are actually teaching in our syllabus with respect to a particular course. It could be pharma, or it could be something else, maybe engineering, or maybe even normal school level teaching also. When the students are actually participating more rather than just a passive receiver, then definitely there will be much chances of getting good content into the student mind. And also it is not only just giving the content, it is making the people to understand. So for that reason, actually we are taking some active learning methodologies for making the student to understand and also make them involve actually. So that is what is the essence of student-centric learning. So with this actually, I thought of actually asking some questions for you, because you already know some of the like ancient people who actually contributed positively for the transformation of this learning system. So I just wanted to ask you one or two questions in the starting phase, because you might have known some people who actually contributed for that. So you can see there is one lady, woman you can see on this slide. So she is the first Indian female teacher, and who also the woman to open the first school in the country. So if you know the name of this particular person, famous person, you can just post that answer in the chat box. Have you heard about her, or do you know her name? And there is one famous university on her name in India.
Savitribai Phule.
Exactly. I got around 2 responses in the chat box, and one person has already unmuted and given the answer. She is Savitribai Phule. So she's the first person actually. She opened a school for women exclusively in India, and fortunately, she's the first female teacher in India. And like, can you identify the person in this slide? Next slide. Yes, it's very obvious, but most of the time, maybe some people may got confused, because always he used to wear that talapaga. There is one turbine is there on his head. So this is actually without turbine when he's an active lecturer before becoming like president of India. So he's Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan. He's the first president of India. Like so, this is like just a task to make you guys a little bit alert in this session. So if you see here, so what exactly happening in the current situation of academic transformation with respect to the learner, or maybe teacher-centric, or maybe learner-centric. So basically, there is a transformation is happening. The moment is like becoming towards competency-based versus knowledge-based. Our traditional system, whatever that happened in the 18th century and 19th century, is basically knowledge-based education. But when it comes to 20th and 21st century, so now it became competency-based education. So where knowledge-based education, it is with respect to the content. So most of the time the teacher is like focused with respect to the content only, not with respect to the understanding of the candidate and their level of understanding. So nowadays in the 21st century, we'll be seeing the transformation like competency based, depending on the level of the student and also depending on the application of this particular concepts in the industry or maybe the society. We are changing our pedagogies. And also there is a transformation from sage on the stage versus guide on the side, where sage on the stage means sage is nothing but the expert, where the teacher is actually we can consider like he's knowing everything and he's actually teaching the students who are actually empty vessels. We can treat students as an empty vessels, where the faculty or teachers, they are actually experts of their own domain. So that kind of traditional system now is now converted to like transforming slowly to guide on the side, where the teacher is now acting as a facilitator or facilitator. He's acting as a facilitator, not as a just a preacher, not only simply talking or delivering the content. He is actually facilitating the students to understand the content properly by providing the environment and also by providing the technique of learning. And also you can see that specific content knowledge by domain knowledge and transform to critical thinking. So this critical thinking nowadays they are like using in a different term, that is design thinking. So where whatever that specific content knowledge, where they are simply learning the concept, especially with respect to theoretical knowledge, theoretical based understanding of the concept. Now it got transformed into design thinking, where the people can design a prototype or maybe they can design an approach where they can actually learn the things very easily and they can actually develop a product out of it. They can develop a product out of that particular concept. Such kind of like transformations are now being like introduced into our system. So where you can see that, so as part of this particular transformation, we might have heard about Bloom's taxonomy. So Bloom's taxonomy is actually intended for testing the knowledge of the student. So where they are simply like remembering the concepts, or they are understanding the deeper concepts with respect to a particular topic, or they are able to apply that in scientific, like identifying the solutions for scientific problems and also evaluating and creating. So where they are like able to create something new, which was not existed before. So by using this knowledge, whatever they are learning from our curriculum, are they able to create something? So that is actually transformation required right now. So when they can create, when they learn actively, when they learn it proactively, so then only they can actually find a solution for the existing problems of the society or maybe the industry. So this is actually what are the transformations are happening. So if you see, there is one famous person named John Dewey. So somewhere in 1940s and 1950s, actually he contributed positively for the development of this student-centric approach in the like modern learning approaches, where we are relying mostly on this like Western based approaches, like teaching from a book, or maybe giving some assignments, or maybe giving some seminars to the students to understand properly. So in that instance, actually this person actually given his own way of understanding with respect to the student-centric. So he told that education is not an affair of telling and being told. So telling is by teacher and being told is by the passive learner, who is a student. So in the current system, in that 1940s and 50s, where the transformation got started, at the time telling is the like whatever. Today also we are following in some instances where we are teaching entirely 50 minutes and 1 hour about one particular topic by showing some examples, some pictures, and student is just passively taking that information and understanding, and some concepts he is forgetting at the end of the day. So but an active and constructive process is required. That is called as basically constructivism. There are different approaches in learning process: behaviorism, constructivism, something like that. So this particular approach, active and constructive process, is coming under constructivism. So where the students were actually involved in the learning process, there the learning process will be definitely fulfilled. So, and also he told that give the people something to do, not something to learn, and the doing is of such nature as to demand thinking. So learning will happen naturally. So that is what his approach is. Just give an assignment or give an approach where they have to learn on their own, not by simply getting the information from the teacher. Anyway, the teacher will be there like beside them, and he's actually providing the advices how to learn the concept, not directly leaving everything on the shoulders of the students. So we are actually becoming like a facilitator, not like simply like a sage, like we know everything and we are the only people giving the knowledge. It is not the situation right now. So we are there, we know everything, but again the way or the mode of teaching now got changed. where the people are actually receiving it differently, not simply from talk. So because you know that lecturing or maybe talk will give only 5% of retention of the knowledge. So remaining 95% is not just becoming like a vanishing grain. It is going somewhere else. So here, yesterday also you might have seen this kind of figure in Dr. GSM lecture in flipped classroom technology. So when it comes to the traditional approach where the student is actually learning exclusively from the teacher, So this is called as actually teacher-centered learning. So where it is like, the teacher functions as a familiar role of classroom lecturer, where he is presenting the information and he is expecting the learners to grab everything from his teaching, from his content. When it comes to learner-centric or maybe student-centric approach, where the student is actually learning from the teacher and the student is actually interacting with other students, nothing but their co-students or maybe peer members. And the student here actually, there is three way of interaction is very important, where there should be proper interaction between student and student, student and teacher and student also, like where the student also actually has to interact with the student properly. Okay. So even then here in this setup also, where the teacher is acting as a facilitator or maybe he's the authoritative figure, but even then he actually constructing a platform where the students are actively participating in the learning program. Okay. So that is actually the essence of this particular student learning approach. So I'll show you a few examples for that also. So for example, you see here, so this in this particular student-centric learning approach, there are 5 pillars, major pillars. In that, teacher is playing a crucial role and learner also is playing crucial role, because whatever the syllabus we have in the starting of the semester and the starting of the academic year, the students will be involved for the designing of the curriculum, nothing but syllabus and the way of teaching. Like we have some term called as TLP, teaching learning practices, nothing but the mode of teaching. Are we using any demonstration? Are we showing any videos? Maybe not YouTube videos I'm talking, videos made by our own. For example, there is some experiments. If you wanted to explain some concept, maybe chromatography, you wanted to explain some concept of understanding G protein coupled receptor, or maybe ion channels, or maybe understanding tablet punching. So for that, initially you can show some videos to them, like those which were made by some of the students or maybe which were made by the faculty members. And from that, you can slowly make a meaningful discussion to understand each and individual step, rather than following a conventional way of teaching. Here you are showing tablet punching can be done like this, you'll be like mixing and you're preparing granules. After that, punching will happen. After that, evaluation principles are there. So this is like traditional way of approach, where for example, if you are showing a tablet and you're asking them some few things, maybe they have faced some they have their own experiences with respect to the tablet. So by making use of their own experiences, by making the students to involve actively in the class, we can make like that. So initially, so during the curriculum development itself, we will actually involve the students and will understand the students level of concepts where they have the fundamental knowledge. Based on that, so not directly giving a content which actually addressing some of the industrial problems. Rather than that, we are understanding the student knowledge and what actually industry needs, what actually the society needs. Based on that, so we can design a content and also way of teaching, mode of teaching. So out of, for example, if you take one particular subject in a semester, so usually we'll be teaching it for probably around 45 to 50 sessions, or maybe sometimes 45 to 60 sessions. In that 60 lectures, rather than giving all 45 as teacher is teaching and student is listening, but we can make some of the concepts as a flipped classrooms, as yesterday Dr. GSM sir mentioned. So where flipped classroom means there will be some content has to be given before the lecture, during the lecture, and after the lecture. So before before the lecture, like post lecture, there is a lot of work has to be done by the faculty. And during the lecture, where the students are actively participating and faculty is actually moderating that whatever that learning process. And after the session, post session, where the faculty is providing additional material and additional exercises, and also providing the feedback by conducting some evaluation processes with the help of rubrics or something like that. So where especially this particular TLP, teaching learning process, is actually the decision making process which will happen well ahead of the semester start. So it actually involves the both people actually, where the faculty will involve and where the students also actually involving. So because they are also like at the end of the day, they are the learners and they have to address these problems. Okay, so this is an active process where the students were involved while designing the curriculum. So now the students also actually have some responsibility for making this process successful. Okay, so in this instance, actually learning becomes more active rather than simply passively listening to the teacher, and becomes more memorable because they are involving actively with all their 100% of mind. So this will happen, and not only that, so whatever the things we are actually making here, with the help of some examples and some like industrial problems, and with respect to the problems, and we are finding the solution with the help of the content, whatever the content we have. So we are deriving like a method like that. So where they are directly understanding that, okay, these kind of problems are already there in the society. So to address that, we need to learn this, and during this learning process, and we are actually making them to again give a solution for the problem. So such kind of system is actually this student-centric or maybe learner-centric processes. Okay, so if we go deeper again, there are actually some pros and cons with respect to teacher-centered and student-centered. So when it comes to teacher-centered, so you know that where the faculty is the boss, he is actually having authority over the class, whatever the people are there, 50 people or 100 people, whatever it is, like there will be pin drop silence, and there will be like much attention will be there from the students towards the teacher, because teacher is talking and he is presenting something where they are observing either teacher or the content actually projected by the faculty, where you can see that there is order in the class, and it actually minimizes the instructor's concern towards the student. Maybe he's missing some key material, maybe he's actually teaching now, so he knows that whatever the topic he has to cover in that particular content, like whatever that session given to him, in that he is completely talking about a particular topic without missing any content, any content. And also it's a focused approach, and sometimes the faculty is actually having a proper planning to discuss which concept first and later followed by some advanced context depending on the first concept. So likewise there will be proper approach. So this is always an advantage approach with respect to the content delivery only. Okay, and again teacher feels comfortable, confident, because he's the in charge of the classroom activities, because there won't be any much noise, or maybe there won't be any much disturbances in the distractions in the class. And student always know that they have to focus on the teacher or focus on the content displayed by the teacher. But there are some drawbacks actually here. So this method works best when the instructor can make the lesson interesting. So if unfortunately if some of the faculty, if they are unable to make the content very interesting, then again the student get bored and their mind may wander somewhere else and they miss some of the key information. That's what actually we know, that the student will lose is constant. Not only student, any person can lose his own concentration after 20 minutes of time. There is this some hardcore rule is there. So there will be, like, if you remember, there are some concepts, maybe even Ishwar sir also mentioned that. So for every 20 minutes or maybe for every 25 minutes, there could be definitely a break in the session. Break means there will be some reflection point, we can simply call it as reflection point. So where you're giving some gap in the content delivery, where you're engaging the students, how much they got actually understand the concept till now. So that kind of break we can give in that sessions. So if you're not giving like that, the student may wander somewhere else, because after 10 to 15 minutes of too much of concentration towards one particular object, they will lose the concentration and they will wander somewhere. Okay, so and in this particular systems, teacher-centric, where student has to struggle on his own alone for getting the information, again, memorize it also. So there is missing potential opportunities to share the process, and also collaboration is not there basically. So which is actually a discouraging point with respect to teacher-centric. And also student may have less opportunity to develop their communication and also crucial thinking skills, because it is one-way teaching and we are only just delivering from one way, and where the student actually not involving in any of the process of understanding the concept. So this is the problem with the teacher-centric. But when it comes to student-centric, so where I already told you, we're involving the student for designing the curriculum and also designing the mode of teaching. And also students here, we are actually, if you see that there are actually different ALM processes, ALM process, if you remember, like flipped classroom or maybe just in time teaching. And you have actually different methods like think, pair, share. You have jigsaw method. Maybe Sir actually given some ideas about how to create puzzles and all these things. So these are all actually active learning methodologies for engaging the student in the class. So whenever you are actually using any active learning method, the student alertness will be more. The student participation is more actually. So in that actually, for example, if you are taking group discussion as a active learning methodology, and you are making the students into different groups where they are actually supporting one concept, and some people actually maybe they are against that particular concept. So with that actually they have to talk on that particular topic, means they should have a prior preparation for that. So during this preparation itself, the student is actually getting a chance of understanding the concept. And while sharing, they're like maybe because of contradictions or maybe because of their positive approaches, there may be sometimes the collaborations, and also they can improve the communication skills. So here students will be more interested to learn in this way of approach. And also the members in the class are definitely part of the learning process here in the student approach. But again, there are drawbacks. If you allow the student to discuss themselves, if you're organizing some group discussion session or maybe some debate session, and always there will be a lot of noise will be there, and finally the chaotic environment will be there. So we need to know how to handle that situation also. This is the drawback, and where some of the students may don't like this approach, and classroom management is like will become a bigger task for the teacher. So possibly like we'll be losing some time, and we may not actually may not cover the given content in that stipulated timelines. So with less focus on lectures, there can be concern that some students may miss important information. So where some people, they are actually habituated for traditional system of understanding, so they cannot actually focus from their peers or focus from their colleagues. So this is one problem actually we can have in the student-centric approach. So if you see that, I already told you that there are 5 important pillars for implementing this especially learner-centric approach. So basically here, like this is the difference between teacher-centric and learner-centric. So where the focus will be on the instructor most of the time in teacher-centric, where you need to focus on the like faculty only. And in learner-centric, the focus will be on both student and instructor. So where the like opportunity of learning from different people is more. And in the teacher-centric, where the students are actually working individually. So whatever they are learning, that is off on their own. So, but sometimes maybe the students, they're interacting after class, but not during the class. And in the learner-centric, you can see that students are actually working in groups, or depending on the activity, sometimes you will be giving even individual tasks also. So likewise, we have a lot of differences between these two methods. Okay, so these are the 5 domains I wanted to mention. Okay, before I just to give one more task, there is actually an active role has to be taken by teacher. And also there should be balance of power. If you are giving too much of freedom to the students, and there again it will be like chaotic situation. So where this faculty has to share the decision making, where we need to share some of the power to the student. For example, way of teaching, in which level or maybe with what activity, like we need to engage the students in that given point, maybe for that 50 minutes or 1 hour time. And that depends on again topic. Okay, so the topic actually chosen by the student, if it is difficult, and that again maybe the students may request the faculty to take care of it as a like traditional way of teaching. Okay, so and again sometimes assignment choices also will be there along like in the hands of students only. So where we don't have like complete authority in the student centric approach. And also function of the content. So if you remember, for developing the content is very tedious task with respect to the learner center or maybe student centric approach. If you remember yesterday's session by GSN sir, so he might have told about there are 3 phases. Before class, that we can simply call it as a pre-session arrangement, during session, and after session. So before session itself, maybe you might have seen different video making tools where the teacher is actually making some video of around 20 minutes or 30 minutes for giving the basic concept of the content which will be discussed maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow. That material will be given in advance to the student. So in that time, actually, you see that there will be a lot of time has to be invested by the faculty to develop that content. And in the similarly, after class also, we have to provide some exercises, or maybe we need to provide some quizzes, or maybe we need to provide some feedback for the like assignments we have given to the students. So this content development is very, very important like part of this learner-centric method. And coming to the responsibility of learning, so in the like faculty or whatever that teacher-centric, where that learning is exclusively on the shoulders of the faculty. But when it comes to this particular student-centric, where they both are actually sharing this responsibility, where the student also actually take an active role in the learning process, because when he understands the concept, then only he can actively participate in the content discussions in the class. And also process and purpose of the evaluation, especially here, the evaluation plays a crucial role when it comes to traditional way of teacher-centric, where the faculty is actually conducting one or more tests after the content delivery. So where he is understanding whether the student is gaining the knowledge or not. But when it comes to student-centric, it is not just at the end of the class or not like that. It is a continuous approach where the students are actually evaluated for their active participation in the class. While, for example, if you remember active learning methodologies, there are like different methods like think, pair, share, like fishbowl, and there is even some jigsaw puzzles or such kind of things where the student is actively involving really. So with that, you can have a continuous approach of assessment. So these are actually 5 pillars where the teacher has to play a crucial role. Similarly, and there will be balance of power, where the balance like power will be shared between the learner also. Even student is also having some like given importance for choosing some of the techniques, and the content plays a crucial role, and responsibility of learning is lying on both the shoulders of learner as well as teacher. And process and purpose of evaluation, here it should be like continuous evaluation always. It's not the end of the class or at the end of the semester. There will be continuous monitoring of the student learning, and based on that, if you remember yesterday's also, and as a part of NAC or NBA approaches, you might have heard about action taken report. Depending on the feedback of the class, sometimes we might have changing our way of teaching, maybe way of this active learning methodologies. For example, if group discussion is chaos, where people are making noise, and we are coming out with some other technique, maybe to engage the students with respect to the learning process. Okay, so this is one thing actually. So where the process is simply product for us, because at the end of the day, we'll be getting the product, nothing but the learning process is fruitful with respect to the students. So just I'll skip a couple of slides, and if you have already remembered few things from the yesterday's class, there are some active learning methodologies. You can see that where the students were actually made into groups, and like we are actually combining them for think, pair, share, large group discussions, or sometimes we are giving some case studies, and sometimes we are conducting brainstorming sessions by posing a question. We're asking the students to solve that. Sometimes hands-on technology, nothing but by showing some instrument demonstrations, or maybe by giving some exercises on the new instruments. And also active review sessions, like for example, by giving some game-based learning technologies. Game-based, like for example, if you see the puzzles and quizzes, these are all game-based learnings, or sometimes role-playing and jigsaw discussion. Jigsaw discussion is one important like active learning methodology, where it has given fruitful results at the end of the day. And sometimes there will be video synthesis will be there. The students are actually preparing some videos on their own from a specific content. And also you can see the basic one, pause for reflection. This is with respect to the faculty only. So where during lecture, a continuous lecture, we might have given some pause, and we are asking some questions to test the knowledge of the student, whether they are following or not. So you can see that the simplest form of active learning methodologies to the complex form of active learning methodologies. You can see that experimental learning and forum theater, or maybe video synthesis, these are the like highest level of complex form of active learning methodologies, where the student attention is more at that time, where the student participation is more in that time actually. So likewise, by using the combination of various methods from these active learning techniques, we can actually make of whatever 45 sessions we actually need to complete, or 60 sessions we need to complete for completing that syllabus. So by combination of with this active learning methodologies, we can engage the student with respect to the content, and also we can make them actively participate in the learning process. Okay, so this is one slide actually you might have seen in a different approach from GS and Kesar. So I just wanted to take one pause for reflection, whether you guys are following or not. From yesterday's and today's class, I will ask you two questions. If you are there, you can give an answer in the chat box, please. So you might have seen this kind of active learning methodology in the previous class, or maybe you might have already known from your own experience. So what is this active learning methodology is called? You can see there are figures. And what is this active learning methodology? Name. You can unmute yourself and answer, otherwise you can type in the chat box. You haven't seen this yesterday? Okay, this is basically think, pair, share. Think, pair, share. So basically there are like students were given with a question or a problem. So initially the students are actually thinking the solution or maybe answer or maybe the content for that given problem. Then after that they are sharing this whatever their thought process with a person, where if it is, for example, properly aligning with the other person, like maybe the opinion, then they are making as a pair, and they are sharing that answer on the like you can see that group level. So individual thinking and finally sharing the their opinions, and based on that they are forming a group of maybe 2 people or 3 people, and later they are sharing that to the other class members. So this is their opinion they are sharing with respect to that particular content. And there is one more thing, I think so. You can see this picture, and what is this ALM is called as? So during sessions like us, sometimes we will be, if it is, for example, there is an active learning approach, we are breaking that students into different groups. Simply we can call them in online learning teaching technology, we can call them as breakout rooms, and we are making that into breakout rooms where they are discussing about the topic. And later onwards we are actually making another breakout rooms where there will be like people are coming from different breakout rooms. From the initial breakout rooms there will be mixing of the first breakout room to the second breakout room session. So based on that they will be sharing that. In the first room there might have a proper discussion with respect to one approach of understanding a content, and the second one maybe they are discussing about evaluation of the tablets. First breakout room they are discussing about maybe how to punch a tablet with the help of granulation. Maybe third one maybe they are talking about wet granulation. Maybe fourth breakout room maybe they are discussing about dry granulation. So if we mix them in a separate breakout room from all these 4 breakout rooms, they will be like giving a proper building of the context. This methodology is basically called as jigsaw approach, jigsaw puzzle. This is called as jigsaw approach. Okay, next, moving on to the next one. So how does this actually works? So whether this will be giving fruitful results or not. So to work it, basically we have to empower the students, and we have to sometimes force the students to think about their like learning process, because obviously we will be getting some inhibition from the students where they will say that, okay, so we are actually believing you as a teacher, you will be like having abundant knowledge. So like making ourselves as a learners, like co-learners, it will be difficult to us to actually address the syllabus or maybe to understand the concept. Such kind of statements will come from the students. And also create independence and ownership of learning, and foster collaborative learning, where if you're providing such kind of ALMs where the group discussion or maybe think, pair, share, or maybe jigsaw kind of thing, where you're making the student to form into groups where they are learning from the others. Okay, and encourage creativity, and also create a rich learning environment inside and outside the classroom. So the learning is not only stopped in the classroom itself, and we have to make the students to even think about the topic which we have taught in the class, or maybe which we have actually delivered in the class. That you can give some content like in the form of not homework, as an exercise, and also to make them actually excited. For example, there is a concept called as digital learning, where you can use the digital resources to make the students to like motivate to come to your class with like whatever we can say that in that active mode of state mindset. For example, you can create some interesting quote stating that if you wanted to understand a particular concept, so come and sit in that particular classroom. For example, if you wanted to learn how the tablets, whatever the Doro 650 you are seeing, how that can be prepared, just quote one particular tablet sheet and give a tagline to that and post it in a WhatsApp group, or maybe post it in, for example, if it is a closed Twitter network, or maybe closed Instagram network, you can post such kind of interesting quotes to the students, where you can inculcate some motivation in the student to like make them to come into the class and also make them involved in the learning process. So this is not only stopping in the classroom itself, even outside the classroom also the student has to discuss actually. So such kind of, I have one example where I had an experience with my colleague in the previous institution. It only take 1 minute. I just wanted to share it because outside the classroom, there is a lot to discuss actually. So what happened is actually while I'm teaching this pharmacognosy subject for the second year students, so I taught about this Vinca rosa topic, and we know that being native Telugu guys, we know that Vinca rosa is an indigenous plant in most of the households. So maybe some people, they might have that plant in their home as a just ornamental plant. So I just told that example, and the student actually, by seeing that chemistry and also by seeing the structure and mechanism of action, and that is for the first time they are seeing it. Maybe as a faculty, we know that from last maybe 10 to 15 years, what is Vinca rosa and what is the phytoconstituent it does have. But the student actually, they got surprised by seeing the plant picture, because it is available everywhere in every household of AP and Telangana. Most of the South Indian people, they do have that particular plant as an ornamental plant. Okay, so next day what happened, one of the girl students, she brought that entire plant to show that to one of the foreign student. So what we did, out of our anxiety, we have taken a picture selfie with the plant and as a whole class. So later what happened in the evening after 5 o'clock, that student actually shared these photographs in the WhatsApp group. We have an official WhatsApp group, shared that picture in the WhatsApp group. So at the time, there is one match is like, I'm a cricket lover, one cricket match is happening at that time. So what happened, I just kept my mobile aside and I'm watching the cricket. After 1.5 or maybe 1 hour, I opened my mobile and I saw there is more than 150 messages in WhatsApp group. And that came from only one single WhatsApp group, and that to that particular class, where Dr. GSN Kodeshwar sir, he initiated one small thread. He initiated one small question, and he is nowhere concerned with my class, but somehow he wanted to motivate the students towards active learning method. So he made the student after 6 o'clock or maybe after 7 o'clock, he just given one thread, he asked one question. So what is the phytoconstituent you remembered from yesterday's class from Rashekar? He asked that question. So one student given answer, the second student given structure, the third student has given mechanism of action. Likewise, there is chain of questions where whatever the class I explained yesterday, that entire class I can see in the chat box from different students. And some people, what they did, they have given links of web pages where the student can have access to some advanced concepts with respect to vincristine and vinblastine. So in which cancers we can use this vincristine, vinblastine, and in which drugs combination we can use it. Just like that, it became like GPAD discussion session. So outside of the class, there is a lot of things to do, actually make the students to involve in the learning process with respect to the content which we are teaching in our classes. So this is one example which we had an experience in the KL University. So way back around 3 to 4 years back before Corona, this was actually happened. I got surprised basically by seeing that, because I myself haven't actually got that kind of idea to make the students to involve in the WhatsApp chatting. Such kind of thing is there. And even we had a lot of discussions with respect to this fastest finger first. You might have seen this in this Kaun Banega Crorepati. Fastest finger first. There will be a couple of questions or maybe a set of questions where whoever is giving the first answer, he's the winner. So likewise, this is like game-based learning, fastest finger first, or maybe sometimes maybe we have a predetermined time where actually we are giving a particular time. We are posting a quiz. and that puzzle has to be solved within 5 minutes, or maybe that particular puzzle, whoever solves first, they are the winners. So likewise, with the definite timelines, we can actually make the students to involve in that learning process, and definitely they will involve in it, because it's a kind of game. It's a kind of game only. So we can actually make the students to actively participate in such kind of activities. That is nothing but active learning only. That is nothing but student-centric learning only. So not only exclusively the teaching is limited to only 50 minutes and 1 hour session given to us, and it is even beyond the content, whatever the session we have delivered, and it is beyond the scope of time, whatever that 8 hours, and they are even learning in their leisure time also with this kind of activities. And again, there will be difficulty if every course is designed like that, if every faculty is picking some time, and again it will become a chaos, and again it will result into a bad feedback from the students. So there will be like proper understanding from the system, actually from the class. That's why actually I told you about the student-centric learning is dependent on even student feedback and also student involvement. If you are not involving the student, you don't know what exactly the student is facing the problem with this many number of assignments and this many number of tasks. So that will actually happen. So likewise, we can implement this technique slowly to the students, and we can make the students like motivated towards this technique, and we can ask them to participate actively in the classes. And the end of the class, or maybe end of the semester, you will be like getting this kind of feedbacks. They are actually adopted towards the student-centric approach slowly. You just introduce one particular active learning technique in the class. Maybe for example, just-in-time teaching is one technique, and there is one technique called as 1 minute paper. 1 minute paper. So what exactly happening in that is, for example, being a teacher, I am teaching for around 45 minutes to 50 minutes by giving some pauses and reflections in my PowerPoint, or maybe whatever the class I am taking physically. So I will ask a couple of questions in between to make them like again come back to that particular 100% concentration mode. So after that, after delivering the content, I just wanted to analyze the student whether they are learning or not. So what I will do at the end of the session, what I will ask the students to take one plain paper, and I will give 1 minute time, and I will ask the students to write whatever the things they learned and remembered from this class. They will write, maybe definitely they will write around 3 to 4 statements, or even more than that. If some people, they are fast writers, they will write very fastly around 3 to 4 sentences, or even more than that. So depending on that, we can evaluate the student, and based on that, we can actually modify our content delivery. The way of teaching. For example, you have delivered a good content where it is actually having a sound concept or maybe a particular theorem, but the student is unable to remember it, unable to remember even the statement. Then again, it's a failure of our class. So likewise, we can get the feedback from this analysis. Like 1 minute paper is one kind of thing. Like if you remember, there is one more concept called as open book test. So this is again will be given like prior instruction to the student, like tomorrow or maybe day after tomorrow, we will be having open book session, open book exam, where you are giving a question where the student will not find in a single page or maybe from a single concept. They have to refer to the multiple concepts, multiple pages to write the answer for that question. So such kind of ALMs will definitely make the students to involve and slowly adopt day by day, and over a period of time, they will actually learn this collaborative learning, and also creative thinking will be inculcated into the students as a part of this student-centric learning. So because we are heading towards this 21st century challenges, definitely the students require the 21st century skills, nothing but whatever I mentioned, the design thinking. It is not like concept-based learning now. So the student has to learn the concept, and he has to think in a such a way that he has to design a solution for the existing problems. Nothing but we have to provide a scope for the students to work on that particular approach, that as well as time, as well as the content which we are providing, that will definitely address that issue. And coming to this, there will be some S and some buts will be there, because at the end of the day, our major role is to complete the topics and also complete the syllabus. So if you are taking this much of time for active learning methodologies, then definitely it is definitely not an easy work for us. Sometimes definitely there will be some content which cannot be covered by our own or maybe through active learning processes. At the end of the day, definitely the students are missing some concepts from the entire subject. So this will happen. And sometimes like you will be having your own perception that So they won't do work. People may not actually understand this concept, and maybe they are expecting me to lecture only. So such kind of approach is also there from the faculty perspective, where this topic is too difficult and student will not understand, and that's why maybe they may expect me being a teacher to give and address that particular content. So that such kind of things are there. So and in this and another way, sometimes we may think that we are the experts and students are just learners, and such kind of maybe I can't say that's an egoistic thing, but because of confidence and because of the expertise we have, sometimes we may think that okay, this topic or maybe what are the subject I need to teach, I don't let my student learn on his own as a part of student learning method. So such kind of inhibitions or maybe obstacles will be there. So if you see the obstacles again, there are a lot of obstacles will be there, but how to overcome that? So this is the best example how to actually make it more student approach. So we have various things like, so first, what is the basically the student class is basically heterogeneous in nature. They're coming from different backgrounds and they're coming from different level of understandings. Nothing but their fundamental concepts are definitely different, and what questions they have depending on their approach, depending on their life aims and goals, depending on that their way of learning is different. So sometimes whatever the content we are teaching, that may not be useful for them. So depending on that, their way of understanding will again vary. Their whatever the pay of attention, nothing but their concentration levels may vary. And also to make them involve, actually we have to employ the teams, we have to identify the people, we have to identify the students and make them leaders or make them teams and make them participating in this active learning technologies. For example, if you remember this GSMK sir question, GSMK sir's like approach of flipped classroom, he actually asked some of the students to becoming as a leader for quizzes, because the student is now responsible for conducting a quiz for that particular subject with different interval times. For each and maybe for every fortnight, for every 15 days, there will be a quiz. That quiz was organized by the student, and the student is now becoming like a leader, and he is getting some kind of like character building things. And also not only that, and he is actually giving the feedback from the student. Like he's acting as a bridge for the student and teachers. He's giving the feedback of the students to the teacher, and also he's giving the approach of the teacher towards this particular topic to the students. So he, depending on their role, they're actually making our job easy. So assign the roles and also form the teams. So whatever the active learning methodologies, it will be very easy for implementation. And also let the students to choose some topics for preparation of the materials, and also for preparing that whatever student teaching, like peer-to-peer mentoring. And also create rubrics where the students should understand that on what basis actually we are evaluating the students. That evaluation parameters also again need to be very clear to the students. Depending on that, their performance will change. And also introduce learning contexts, especially if you're building the teams, so they will understand. Maybe from their seniors they might have learned, or maybe from some open learning resources they might have learned. So likewise, we need to provide abundant resources like for the students to like learn a proper content, particular content with respect to different subjects. That also works very effectively. And encourage the self-assessment. So at the end of the day, whatever the performance they did, you ask them to evaluate themselves by giving the proper material to them. So based on that, they will keep on like checking their own performances, and that itself will actually improve their understanding and also learning process. And how do we assess? Actually, there are some hard measures and some soft measures are there by conducting some regular tests. We are actually measuring the student, and also there are some soft measures where we are actually providing some way of like evaluation criteria by providing these rubrics and all. And we can see by, for example, if you're conducting some group discussion session, or maybe just in time teaching, or maybe game-based learning, definitely you can feel the atmospheric energy, that whatever the ambience you will be seeing in the class. Based on that, you will be understanding whether the students are participating actively or not, whether the student got satisfied or not, and finally whether we got satisfied or not. Based on that, you can modify that technique, whatever technique you are following in this, making the student to understand your concepts very easily. And there are some definitely obstacles. So we have some fears actually. So these fears are actually came because of our approach, and also maybe sometimes we may have implemented like 1 or 2 methods of active learning methodologies. Whether they worked or not, we don't know. Depending on their feedback, maybe sometimes we may have some inhibitions, and there are definitely some barriers we have actually in our current traditional system. So to overcome that, it is like a very big task for the faculty to implement this student-centric approach, not only faculty, to the organizations, basically, starting from the like head of the department to even principal to the even individual faculty. There are a lot of obstacles are there. So because of time constraints, like I will be like summarizing all of them obstacles actually. So if you see that obstacles in the faculty perspective, like there will be actually first order barriers and second order barriers will be there depending on the nature of the obstacle. So the first obstacle, we can call it as actually extrinsic factor, where insufficient time to plan instruction. For example, we have only limited time for planning the teaching. So if you see the traditional way of teaching, preparing PowerPoint won't take much time, and delivering the content is again of 1 hour or maybe 50 minutes. And preparing the content may have taken like sometime, maybe around sometimes for a new topic, it will take 2 hours of time or 3 hours of time. But when it comes to student-centric learning approach, where if you remember flipped classroom technology, where before the session you have to work on the content, where you need to prepare a video and you need to post that video and make it available to the student, and you need to prepare some notes to supply to the student as a post learning like maybe post session material, and you need to design an evaluation method, and you design a rubric, and you need to evaluate the individual performances of the students, and you need to provide the feedback, constructive feedback to the students. It's very bigger task actually. In the conventional way, just spending 1 hour time for the preparation of the slides or maybe preparing the content and delivering in 1 hour is very easy for us because we are spending 2 hours only. But if it is coming to student centric and you have to work a lot, it will be, for example, if you wanted to deliver a proper session, 1 hour session will take around 10 hours of time for preparing the content only. And definitely there is inadequate support because this is a new technology. There is definitely a problem from the other faculty members or maybe the admin people to actually implement this new technology. And coming to the second order barriers, this is like a bigger problem actually. So because the belief system of the faculty, maybe because of their expertise, maybe because of the student perspective, sometimes we are thinking that we are the like what we can say that boss of that particular session, because people, they don't know, we are treating just like them empty vessels. This is again, we cannot call it as a egoistic approach, but again, because of the self-confidence and because of the expertise level, sometimes we may think that okay, this system will not work. Then definitely it is an inhibition from the faculty perspective only. And the second thing, established classroom practices. Whatever the classroom environment now was being set up in university level or institute level, that is for conventional traditional teacher-centric approach, where teacher is standing and students are sitting in the benches and they are understanding the concepts. It's not about that whatever the setup is there, it is not actually convenient for the students to interact with each other. Whatever benches system and whatever the ambience is there, it is not good for active learning processes, where we need to sometimes make into the groups, and sometimes we need to like incorporate some game-based learnings. In that context, this classroom setup is not at all useful. And the unwillingness of the faculty to change, because change is always not palatable to anybody. And not only that, and the most important thing is that it is when it comes to the administrative perspective, and this is the biggest hurdle in today's higher education system. So where the student instructor ratio, now it was gone wrong actually. So that 1:15 or 1:20 is no longer is working for us. And the workload of the faculty, not only teaching workload, there is a lot of bureaucratic workload is there with respect to the administrative workloads, like we need to compete with the NAC accreditations, NBA accreditations, and maybe PC accreditations, whatever it is. So that is also coming on the head of the faculty only. And in addition to that, there is a research workload. Being higher education institutions, we have to again prove ourselves. Being a faculty, we need to prove ourselves as a researcher also. So that research workload is also actually hampering the involvement of the teachers to become like a good teacher. And at the end of the day, there is even one more like bigger impact when it come to the progress of the faculty, where faculty is now changing their mindset towards being a faculty as a facilitator or maybe felicitator for the learner, rather than they are involving in the research activities and they are progressing themselves in a way, because organizations, they do recognize research contributions only, not academic contributions. The setup whatever we have in India currently, that is actually giving incentives or maybe giving importance to the research contributions made by the faculty, not the like contributions with respect to the teaching methodologies they are taking and the feedback which you are getting from the students. So end of the day, again, the research progression is actually playing a crucial role. So here you can see that I highlighted something here. The current recruitment and promotion policy is also favoring research productivity over teaching quality. So what is your teaching content you are giving to the student is not a like a context of discussion with respect to your progression is concerned. So they are looking at your research progression only, how many papers you are publishing and what are the admin roles you are actually playing. So that is also making obstacle, especially for transforming from teacher-centric to student-centric. So this is one way of like one problem basically. And coming to like the student perspective, so they might have some bad experience in the previous maybe education ranges, maybe in the intermediate stage or maybe the graduation stage. They might have some like bad experiences with respect to the project work, where the group of people are actually involved there, and out of the group only few people are working and the remaining people are simply idle. So in that situation, whatever the people, whoever is working, they are feeling it as a bad experience. They are taking it as a just like only 2 people are working, the remaining 3 to 4 people are simply enjoying the fruits of the project work. So these people, whoever the hard workers, they will not be definitely positive about this student-centric approach, because the student-centric approach will be involving the students as a group or maybe a group of people. So obviously such kind of students are actually not willing to transform into this student-centric approach. And also sometimes student may feel anxious because being a student, they have assumptions that maybe faculty are expecting something else from us, something more, maybe something advanced from us. Such kind of anxious things will be there, and sometimes the students are less motivated, and sometimes the students are actually feared about that they were left themselves because there won't be any proper support from the faculty to understand the concept. Such kind of like fears are there from the student perspective, student side. So these are all actually different obstacles. To overcome that, it is not actually easy, but we can actually achieve them by implementing like first one day we are implementing active learning technology, and after 1 week again we are actually going with one more, and slowly we are making them habituated to this student-centric learning, where like they can slowly understand what is the concept and adapt themselves for that learning mode. So obviously challenges are there. So we need to maintain the quality, and always there will be a wiggle room to have, like for example, we need to have being a teacher, we always expecting that 100% pin drop silence we are expecting, but sometimes if it is student-centric learning, there will be noise will come, and always good noise is good, like that healthy noise is always good in the classroom, not rather than just like making a chaotic environment. So always this healthy noise is encourageable with respect to student-centric learning, and that is also with respect to the faculty, whoever is handling that. So there will be some flexibility should be there with respect to the faculty, where they have to allow the students noise, because active learning process is like that only. And so coming to this, still there is a long way to go. It can be messy at first, and it is not definitely linear. It is much complex. Implementing these techniques is not easy at all, and we need to pay a lot of attention, and we need to spend a lot of time. And it is uncomfortable because now we are transforming from 100% attention from the students towards like where the students are not paying attention at all to us. Only they are talking to themselves, and they are making some statements, and that statements may be sometimes helpful for the context or may not be helpful for the context. So such kind of uncomfortable situations will be there, and we need to be ready for that. And it takes resilience to affect change, obviously, because end of the day, the winding road definitely gets you to the top of the mountain. So we need to actually face such kind of struggles to get the like achieving this essence of student-centric learning. So to conclude my session, actually, for achieving this 21st century industry needs and societal problems, we need to have a proper approach of making the student to involve in this student-centric learning only, where they are actually taking the leading role for learning process rather than only teacher is teaching and they are the passive learners. We have to make them involved in the designing of the curriculum and also designing in the mode of teaching and also designing of the assignment choices. So then definitely they will take the lead role, being responsible students. They will be definitely coming forward to learn in a different way. So with one famous note, a quote from Sir Ken Robinson, I just wanted to end my session. So we have to actually recognize that human flourishing is not a mechanical process. It is an organic process. So, and you cannot predict the outcome of human development. And all you can do is just like a farmer is to create the condition under which they will begin to flourish. So simply we can say that we have to provide a platform to the student to learn very effectively rather than simply listening to the faculty and getting information exclusively from the teacher. And we have to provide a platform where they can learn from many sources and also actively participating in the learning process. So with this, actually, I just wanted to end my session, and these are the different sources which I used for preparing this presentation. And I just wanted to thank KVSR Siddhartha College of Pharmacy, and also Dr. Sunita Madam, Principal, KVSR Siddhartha College of Pharmacy, and organizing team, Dr. G. Vijay Kumar Sir and Dr. Ravi Sir for giving me this opportunity. And also I wanted to thank Dr. G.S.N. Koteshwara Sir and Dr. Madhusudan Reddy Sir, being good friends of mine, to provide such kind of opportunities. And I wanted to thank SPP, SPTM and MIMS Dean to be University for allowing me to present my thoughts to share along with you. And last but not the least, I wanted to thank all the participants for your valuable time, for your patient listening. Thank you so much, sir. Back to Dr. Vijay Kumar, sir. Over to you, sir.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. You had explained very well how to implement the active learning process, teaching learning process, and the obstacles, how to overcome. Definitely, I think it's going to be very useful for especially for the young generation teachers.
2K2200.
Now, it's over to Sainath to give a vote of thanks.
On behalf of KVSR Siddhartha College of Pharmaceutical Sciences, it's my pleasure to present a vote of thanks to Dr. Rajsekhar Reddy sir. It has been, very much useful for the young generation, budding faculty. They can know the techniques. Even everybody nowadays, they are going for this student-centric learning, which is a biggest obstacle there. And there is a continuous process there. And yesterday class, Koteshwara sir, he has explained all the methodologies and also the practical aspects. And now you have explained every bit of obstacle what we are facing and how to rectify. All these things you have explained in your speech, sir. It's an excellent talk, sir. And thank you for your difficult, in your busy schedule also you have given us such a type of your
Thank you so much, sir.
You, sir.
First of all, we need a platform to prove ourselves. Thank you for that.
Yes. Already you have proved, sir. You have taught in IITs everywhere, sir. So that's why I came over to you to guide.
One more beautiful thing is you conclude the session. Time management is also important. That's what you have showed. Exactly, you concluded within 12 o'clock, sir. That's what.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
For wonderful session, sir. Wonderful session, sir. Definitely.
Okay, sir.
That's what we can witness by number of participants in the webinar Zoom line, sir. Still, all the time we maintained 70 members throughout this session, sir. 1.5.
Yeah, I wanted to thank especially Koteshwar sir because being faculty in the KL University before, so we had a lot of scope to actually learn new things to implement there, because their student learning centric approach is there. So we used to tell it's a student learning environment, but after getting SAR into university, then we got proper student learning environment in especially College of Pharmacy. We used to share a lot of things and we used to plan accordingly. Actually, sometimes we'll be having a mutual sessions. So where I used to sit in the SAR class sometimes, So such kind of things I learned from Koteshwar sir, basically.
So actually, these obstacles, the obstacles are not for the younger generation, sir. It's actually for senior teachers.
Exactly, sir. Because you know that I can't say it as egoistic thing, but again, they are actually experts. But definitely, it is good for the students if there is a way of making the student engage little bit.
Yes.
So, but today with today's generation of students, it is a bit difficult.
Yes.
Difficult to engage them.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Can we
sir.
conclude this session?
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Please end this session.